Welcome to Long Live Alternative Party's podcast. Hey, friends, we have another exciting guest on our podcast, like we tend to here. Our guest, his name is Cobi Clark, and he's going to tell us about what party he's representing, what race he's running, and all that good stuff. So welcome to the podcast, Cobi.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name's Cobi. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Please tell us who you are.
Yeah, my name is Cobi Clark. I'm running for House Position 1 in Legislative District 47 for the Libertarian Party. I am very excited to be running. I'm running against 3 Democrats and no Republicans, and I actually just had a pretty successful campaign kickoff last night. We had about 50 people in attendance, and local council members and leaders got together to support my campaign. So I'm very excited. I think we're building a lot of momentum, and I'm ready to bring this one home.
Terrific. So what was your district again for our audience?
Legislative District 47. I would be representing Auburn, Kent, and Covington.
Okay. And please tell our audience what state that's in.
Oh, Washington State.
Okay, great. Great. So what led you to the Libertarian Party in
I've identified as a libertarian since I was old enough to think. Yeah, but I think I've voted libertarian in every presidential election since I was old enough to vote too. So, I've always been fairly freedom focused in my life and entrepreneurial and in favor of free markets and kind of a live and let live mentality. And that's really what the Libertarian Party is all about, the non-aggression principle, letting anyone do whatever they wish to do so long as it doesn't interfere with anyone else. And I think that's generally the best way to govern. And I was actually approached by both other parties because, libertarians have policies that we favor that people would traditionally label as right-wing or left-wing, but we've got policies on both sides of the aisle as a consequence of our philosophy. And so I had a bid for Auburn City Council last year, and I raised enough awareness that both parties asked me to run for this position now.
Wow.
Democrats asked me to run for Democrat. Republicans asked me to run Republican. I told both of them no. I said, I'm a libertarian. I want to stay true to my values. But I'd appreciate it if you guys would support me as libertarian. Republicans said, yeah, Republicans agreed to support me as libertarian. So I'm endorsed by District 47 Republicans, and they decided not to run anyone in my race.
Yeah, sounds like wait.
Oh, I'm sorry. You broke up there. I only caught.
Oh, okay. It's not you have a situation there that you the compromise principle. Yeah, there's.
I'm still not catching you.
Well, I said, sounds like the best situation that or not have technical.
Are you driving or are you stationary? I can't hear you.
No, I'm driving.
You're driving?
No, driving.
Not driving.
Any better?
Are you on like a Wi-Fi connection or?
Yeah.
Maybe I need to let me disconnect my Wi-Fi and get on broadband.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah,
I can't hear you.
How about now?
Oh, that's much better.
Okay. So I was saying that it sounds like you got the best of both worlds, that you don't have to compromise your principles, yet you still get their support.
Yes. And actually, I think that's part of why I got their support. We don't agree on every issue, but they agree that I have integrity and they appreciate that I'm standing in defense of what I believe in. And we have, some commonality in fiscal issues. Washington State, for the first time in its history, well, not the first time in its history, but legislators just passed an income tax. And for the last 100 years, voters have rejected the income tax. This time, the legislators put in what's called an emergency clause to make it so that voters could not issue a referendum on the income tax. And so that created a lot of animosity, in a lot of places, but in particular, Republicans were pretty upset about that. And so I'm opposed to the income tax, and I support a balanced budget. And so, the Republicans and I agree on that, and that's part of why they supported me. But they also supported me because I'm staying true to what I believe in.
Oh, great. Okay. So in Washington, is the government funded by sales tax then if it's not funded by income tax?
Well, I think it's a little bit of a misnomer to say the government's funded by a sales tax. It's a combination of different taxes. We have excise taxes, sales taxes, property taxes, and those three in combination with each other are really the primary revenue stream for our local government.
Okay. So there's several different taxes then.
Yeah.
Okay. So in this race, what are some of the big issues that are affecting your constituents, and how are you planning on resolving them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, the income tax is obviously a hot one. As I said, the income tax has traditionally been wildly unpopular in our state. It's also unconstitutional. We have a uniform property tax requirement, and income has generally been defined as property. So the legislature could pass, say, a flat tax where everybody gets taxed 5% of their income, but they never have because, again, it's wildly unpopular. And so they're trying to push through this graduated tax system where, people of higher income strata pay more than people of lower income strata. And so now there's a constitutional challenge to it as well. So that's been a pretty hotly debated, newsworthy topic going on right now. And then, of course, ICE has also been a hotly debated hot topic right now. We are a sanctuary state. And so the way immigration enforcement has been working with our state, within our state, has been a hot issue for people in my district. But setting aside the more partisan flashpoint issues, my campaign's really focused on housing, healthcare, taxes, civil rights, education, energy, small businesses, and homelessness. And if you go to my website, I have a pretty comprehensive campaign booklet that lays out all of my policy positions on each of those issues. And, I'd say that one thing that really sets me apart from my opponents is that I have a very detailed plan to how to deal with all this stuff. I recently completed a degree in economics and policy analysis, and I'm using that in combination with my 15 years experience as a real estate developer. I delivered hundreds of homes throughout Washington state to put together a policy package that will address affordability in my state, help us keep the tax burden low, and help put more people into houses, because we also have a pretty major housing shortage right now. Okay.
So what is your plan for fixing the housing situation?
Oh, well, that's multifaceted. So, number one, if you can believe it, we charge sales tax on new construction. So when you build a house, 10%, 10.5% thereabouts, depending on which city you build in, goes straight to the state. So 10% of the cost of housing is just sales tax. Cost of new housing. So that's pretty monumental, number one. At the absolute minimum, we need to stop charging taxes on the construction of affordable housing. Number two, we have the strictest, one of the strictest, if not the strictest, energy code in the nation. And the Washington State Energy Code adds an additional 10 to 15% on the cost of a new house. So we're talking about 20 to 25% of the cost of a house, which I think an average starter home in Washington State right now costs about $550,000. 25% of that, $140,000 of it, is taxes and regulatory fees associated with only energy code and only the sales tax. On top of that, you've got the Growth Management Act, which is a centralized command and control zoning planning system, in which the state decides which land within our borders can be developed, and also implements regulatory requirements for all of the local jurisdictions and cities to develop zoning in the eyes of what the state needs that zoning to be. So in other words, the state is centrally controlling and planning the housing supply. And they've been doing that for about 30 years. And, the effects of that are clear. We've got housing scarcity that's greater than any other state in the nation. We've got the second highest housing shortage in the country next to California, who has a similar scheme. And, when you design an economic system based on the 5-year and 10-year plan, as the Growth Management Act has, it's very analogous to the 5-year, 10-year plans of the Soviet Union. And when you did it in the Soviet Union, you had famine and you had breadlines. And now that we've done it here for the last 30 years in Washington State, we have homelessness and extraordinarily high housing costs. And so the inability for the market to adapt to housing demand because of this 5-year, 10-year central planning process, major barrier, in addition to the energy code and in addition to the sales tax. So there's a whole host of regulatory barriers from all levels of local government to state government that makes it difficult to build housing. There's a whole host of taxes from the local governments to the state governments, and I haven't even talked about impact fees. The cities have impact fees on top of the state sales tax. So the number of ways that the state and the localities make it hard to build housing has driven a massive housing shortage, which has driven up the price of rents and the price of new homes.
Okay.
And I want to get rid of all that. I'm here to deregulate the market. I'm here to reduce the tax burden on the new housing supply, and I'm here to take the energy code down a level. I think the state's sold the people out for the trees, and we need to do a better job taking care of people, even if it means we have to cut down a few more trees.
Okay. So what is your strategy for reaching the voters in your district?
Oh, I've got many strategies. Like I said, I just had a campaign event last night. A lot of local people within my district came to join me. I think we had between 50 and 60 people. We raised around $7,000 gross. It was a great little kickoff. And then in addition to that, I have a social media presence on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And I'm also door knocking 3 or 4 times a week in the afternoons, delivering my campaign pamphlet to all those folks. And then right up before the election, the primary election in August, I'm going to do a probably 20 or 30,000 person direct mail package that provides links to my campaign booklet and connects my policy platform to the issues that I've been discussing with people in my district for really the last year and a half. I'm talking about my campaign kickoff last night, but again, I ran for city council in my district last year, and doing that, I was able to get involved with a lot of people and talk with them about a lot of issues they're having, and I've translated some of that information to my campaign here for State House.
Okay. So, speaking of your district, can you please tell us the demographics of it?
Yes. So it's some semi-urban areas, kind of in the downtown Auburn core, and then it's largely suburban, kind of outside of the downtown core. We are northeast of Tacoma and southeast of Seattle. And so we have some urban, some suburban, and there are some small rural parts out by like Black Diamond and Maple Valley that are also part of my district. And largely families, largely younger, largely well-educated.
Okay.
Very diverse ethnically and culturally, though.
Okay. So earlier you're saying that the Republican Party has not decided not to run a candidate against you. So is your district a red district or a blue district, or is it purple? Or what is it?
Yeah, I live in a swing district. Yeah, it's a swing district. So for the last 12 years, or 6 state house election cycles, or 3 senatorial or gubernatorial election cycles, Republicans have lost. But in the 3 or 4 cycles prior to that, Republicans won. So my district has gone back and forth between Republican and Democrat, and part of the reason for that is because my district traditionally votes fiscally conservative. They regularly reject new taxes, even taxes that are popular in other parts of the state. They regularly vote for tax constraints like uniform applications of tax codes and caps on how high the government can raise taxes every year. But they also regularly vote in favor of socially progressive issues such as same-sex marriage and the legalization of marijuana.
Okay.
And so my district has historically been fiscally conservative, socially liberal, and that causes it, depending on the environment, to bounce between the two parties. Well, I, as a libertarian, am fiscally conservative and socially liberal. So, I think part of what I'm doing with my campaign is I don't like income taxes and I don't like ICE. And I think you guys don't like both either, so you shouldn't have to choose, right? You shouldn't have to choose ICE with the Republicans but low taxes, or high taxes with the Democrats, who, by the way, have also not done a very good job of standing up to ICE. That's another criticism I have of the Democrats. But so I'm offering both, fiscal financial freedom and personal freedom. You shouldn't have to choose between the two.
Okay. So speaking of ICE, what do you think is the ideal immigration policy?
For my state or for the nation? Those are two different questions.
Okay, how about both? Because I'm curious how they would be different.
Sure. So I'm going to start with my state because I'm running for state office. It's where I'm going to have most influence. First of all, we are already a sanctuary state, and I think the way that our state handles our sanctuary status needs to be reformed. I appreciate the intent of wanting to allow people from all over the world to come to our state and thrive. I think it's a great intent. I think the way that it's handled through our sanctuary status is very bad. And the reason I say that is because all the state does, in fact, it's not really what the state does, it's what they don't do. The sanctuary state status just means that our state will not cooperate with federal immigration enforcement. Now, the consequence of that is twofold. The first consequence is that when somebody who wasn't born here, who maybe crossed the border illegally and is non-resident, if they commit a crime in our state, they get due process, which is very important. Everybody deserves due process. It's a human right. It's not just a constitutional right for only U.S. citizens, okay? It's everyone has a right to due process. So if somebody comes in from out of the country and they commit a crime here, we grant them due process. If they go through their court date and they're convicted of a crime, they're now a criminal. They should be deported, okay? We should not have people who have been convicted of a crime through our court system living within our prison system as a burden on the taxpayers. It's ridiculous. Okay, we should be cooperating with federal immigration enforcement to get those criminals sent back to where they came from and to relieve the burden on our taxpayers. So that's number one. We should be doing that. Number two, when ICE comes into our cities and kicks in doors without warrants, arrests people wearing masks in violation of our Sixth Amendment rights and in violation of our Fourth Amendment rights, and harasses our people who are peacefully protesting in the street in violation of our First Amendment rights, and kills people like they have throughout the country who have a gun holstered in their pocket in violation of our Second Amendment rights, for our state to simply bury its head in the sand and say, well, gosh, we're a sanctuary state, so we're just not going to cooperate with those people, that is making the state complicit in the violations of our rights. It's unacceptable. Our states and our cities need to be active in the enforcement and protection of our constitutional rights, even if it's federal agents that are here violating those rights. That's why we have the Posse Comitatus Act. That's why we have the ability to form posses in our cities, and that's why we have a National Guard. And so we need to both be willing to deport people who have been convicted of crimes, and we need to be willing to stand in defense of our citizens' rights when the federal agents come down here and start violating them. Okay. So that's how our sanctuary status needs to be reformed on the state level. Federally, I'm going to quote Milton Friedman. Milton Friedman said, you can have a welfare state or you can have open borders. You can't have both. And what he meant by that is that when you have a welfare state and open borders, people come from all over the world, from all sorts of destitute circumstances, and they seek handouts, okay? And those come at the expense of tax-paying citizens. And we do not have enough money in this country, regardless of what anyone tells you. We're very wealthy, sure, but there's not enough resources. Their scarcity still exists to feed, house, and clothe everybody on the whole planet. It's just not possible. And so we used to be able to have an open borders policy until about 1916 because we didn't have an income tax, we didn't have a welfare state. So anyone who came here had to stand on the merits of their own production. They had to produce more than they consumed, and that helps the economy grow. But when you have a welfare state, they no longer have to produce more than they consume, and they can drag on the economy, and it can harm people who were born here. So that's where a lot of this animosity comes from as far as immigration goes. And so the compromise to that, I'd say, post-World War II, is that we would make it a civil infraction, not a criminal infraction, but a civil infraction to cross the border. And sort of the unspoken social contract with people who did cross the border was that, okay, you can come here, you can work, but you're going to pay taxes into a welfare system that you're never going to get any benefits from. But in exchange of that, you're going to have a better life, and your kids are going to have a better life. And if your kids are born here, then they're going to get citizenship. And that did two things. One, it allowed people to come and support our economy. It allowed people to come and have a better life. And it didn't completely catastrophically ruin the welfare state that was built in the World War II area after the income tax was made legal after the 16th Amendment was passed into the Constitution. And that worked for a really long time. A couple of things happened. Number one, we stopped preventing them from getting benefits, and that kind of ruined that system a little bit. And then number two, we also started trying to close the border. And so the system is breaking. That's certainly true. But the reason the system is breaking is people have kind of lost sight of what the social contract was. And I think we need to get back to a place either where we shrink the size and scope of the state and eliminate the income tax, which would allow us to have open borders again, or we need to do a better job of protecting the welfare structures that were built post-World War II and recognize that we just cannot take care of the whole planet. It's just not, it's a fantasy. It's not real. So we got to do one of those two things nationally.
Okay. Okay, that sounds like you're looking at this from a lot of angles.
Yeah, I try to.
Yeah, it sounds like a balanced approach. It sounds like you're not too extreme in one direction about immigration, that you want to get the best. You want to make it something that is possible for the right people, yet you don't want people to abuse it.
That's right.
And you also want to keep the government officials in check as they're
Absolutely.
overextending their powers.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, good. I'm glad I asked you that question. So, Cobi, how can our audience support you in your campaign?
Yeah, well, if you live in my district, obviously vote for me. If you don't live in my district, you can vote with your dollars. My website is cobiclark.com, COBICLARK.com, and there's a little donate button right at the top. And what that does is it helps me send those 20 to 30,000 mailers out that I want to send, and it helps me print these booklets that I want to take door to door. To put things in context, in order for me to win this election in my district, I need to raise about $100,000, and including some loans. Yeah, and so far, my campaign sources total around $20,000. So we're on the right track. You know, we got time, but I need all the help I can get. And I could have the best platform and the best vision and the best ideas in the world, but if nobody ever hears about it, I won't win. And so the dollars that get sent to me will be used to help put my platform in front of more people in my district and help us win. Okay,
great. Cobi, thank you for coming on the podcast today and talking about your campaign.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
We wish you all the best in your campaign and also everything else you do in your personal and professional life.
Thank you.
Bye.